All right, let's hear it, Tampa Bay.
The hottest city in America. It makes you absolutely world class. A national map of sustainable communities.
It all starts in Tampa.
This is the stuff that makes Tampa the place you want to live. For the win.
Okay, so it's the era of the creative city. And urban centers all over the country are doing what they can to find ways to attract and retain talent. And some build monuments to high culture and sport. Some lure with big tax incentives. And some look to hotspots and see what they can do to be the next. My aim is not to dispute those tactics, but to address something closer to home. What can a city do to fully activate and capitalize on the talent already within it? I'm a Tampa native. My grandmother went to Hillsborough High School, and my mom was in the first graduating class at USF. 22 years ago, when I was fresh out of college in Chicago, I moved home, and I brought some friends with me. I was in it for the long haul, an aspiring writer, producer, director, with big plans and big ideas. But after 2 years of odd jobs and no jobs and a lost sense of connection and purpose, I had to make a change. So a lot of the dagger of disappointment came because I had had it so good. In college, I lived in the personal utopia of a communications-themed dorm with instant access to diversely talented collaborators, production equipment, and opportunities to shine. My leaving Tampa began a 20-year odyssey of inquiry and reflection. Too idealistic and full of conviction to let go of my calling, but too pragmatic to keep at it, I took refuge in graduate school. Weeks into my journey, I discovered sociology, and I began to question and analyze darn near everything. The next year, I started a PhD program at Vanderbilt, studying the career challenges of Nashville's striving freelance musicians. I examined the intersection of sociology, work, and psychology. How did these musicians manage to keep going against all odds, without structural support? And this spawned questions of what a structured work environment provided and what its absence threatened to create. Organization, integration, and validation on the structure side, and ambiguity, isolation, and insecurity without it. And here we are 15 years later, and those very issues are becoming more and more resonant for more and more people. It's a new work order. If you're outside of the structure, where do you find social support? How do you stay plugged in? We have treasure in our midst, from the talent pool of recent graduates, transplants, and the underemployed on one hand, to the curious, the creative, and volunteers to be on the other, underutilized and underactivated. And every moment there is a gulf between promise and possibility is a loss for self and city, lost productivity, wasted potential, and squandered prosperity. So the civic question is, what can the community do to keep those people, people like me and people like you? What can we do to keep you in and contributing to a greater Tampa? We seem to be gravitating toward building structures, but I would argue that a more judicious investment is a new kind of structure, an opportunity structure. And an opportunity structure is my term to describe a flexible framework for connected engagement. It can be physical or virtual, and in fact, with Ignite, we're experiencing one right now. 3 years ago in Orlando, I gathered my journey, theory, and collaborators, and joined forces with a nonprofit to erect ourselves an opportunity structure, a creative community hub built in the wake and spirit of a closing independent bookstore. The bookstore was Urban Think, so we called it Urban Rethink. And if you knew our budget, half of you would think we were crazy and half of you would think we were amazing. The hardest part is explaining exactly what it is. As I see it, it's the fruits of my odyssey, the conclusion to my dissertation, and the recreation of my dorm. It's a place where a woman can find herself singing to a room full of friends and collaborators 2 months after moving from India. And another can make a connection leading to employment in her field after all but giving in. It's people, access, structure, and spirit, with a dose of googly eyes and a dash of broomstick ponies. Already, Urban Rethink is succeeding in changing perceptions of Orlando one encounter at a time. Most importantly, it delivers daily on the promise that Orlando is a place you can make things happen and make a difference. Clearly, the same can be said of Tampa. So my challenge to you is, what more can we do, both to mind the gap and mine it? Thank you.